Oh, my name is Matt Shanahan. My responsibility at Lockstep is really all around product strategy with a focus on maximizing customer benefits from our solution. To do that, I spend a lot of time talking with customers about their challenges and their priorities. And today I'm happy to share some of the latest discussions we've been having around reducing DSO. First, a quick background on Anytime Collect. Anytime Collect makes collecting cash faster and easier. It also makes your bank balance bigger. Anytime Collect is in use with over 160 customers globally, and we have more than 10,000 users of our application and portal. We think that connectivity has the power to unlock productivity and business benefits. That's why we spend a lot of effort in integration technology. Our integration platform has the most number of connectors in the industry. And if you don't see yours on here, we can certainly add it. This is a growing list for us. We also have deep expertise. We process over 1.2 million invoices monthly. And we have over 2 million companies in our network to exchange payments and invoices back and forth. Over time, we've helped vendors collect over 50 billion in cash. So again, a lot of experience in the industry and expertise to build on. Today's webinar is the first of a 4-part series. We'll be looking into what AR sequencing is and how it impacts DSO. Because DSO is a lagging indicator, part 2 of the series will focus on the often overlooked leading indicators for reducing DSO. So to look into the metrics and what we can do to improve there. Part 3 will dig into how AR sequencing can be used with a digital portal. And part 4 will look into how you can build and manage your own AR sequencing. So it's a great series and I encourage you to attend all of them. Today's agenda is focused on a couple of topics. First, we'll look into the good, the bad, and the ugly of reducing DSO. Next, we'll cover what AR sequencing is and then look at the most popular AR sequences. Finally, we'll examine the business case for AR sequencing with several case examples. We'll look into, how do you justify and create an ROI for this? And then before we jump into the content, we did want to take a quick poll here just on your use of DSO. Great. Thank you for your participation. So first, the good. Reducing DSO is good. It increases your bank balance, which means you have more working capital to invest in your business. That working capital also means you can increase cash from operations, either by reducing interest expense or increasing your interest income. What we also witness is every time we see a reduction in DSO, there's an accompanied increase in operational efficiency, both within the team and across the organization. So here's the bad. @Radius monitors through annual surveys the payment trends that are going on in different geographies. These are some of the trends they identified in June of 2019 for the US. While all companies at some point experience a late payment, 74% of companies experience a continuous cycle of late payments. In fact, those companies saw the fact that 24% of their total outstanding receivables was past due. These same companies, when they were interviewed, 1/3 of them expect an increase in late payments as they're going into 2020. So that's sort of the state, DSO is sort of plateaued and it looks like it's actually going to be growing. And then here's the ugly part. Manual collections really bottleneck the ability to engage all the past due customers. In our benchmarks, so we interview customers as we go in for before and after on implementations. And what we find is that AR staff requires anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes per phone call. This includes prep time to get the information together that they need for the customer, the call time with the customer, post-call administration and write-ups, And that takes a significant amount of time to be able to get through. As a result of that, when you look at their total outbound outreach on a daily basis, the average AR staff person completes anywhere from 40 to 60 outbound communications per day. The limited capacity of the AR staff to do this means that less than 10% of customers are contacted after invoice presentment. And that's primarily because the staff is focused on, customers that are 60 or invoices that are 60 days or more past due. The Hackett Group recently put out a report on working capital scorecard, where they go and they look at how well are people managing their working capital. And they indicated that one of the biggest obstacles to reducing DSO was the lack of technology adoption by accounting departments. In my discussions with CFOs, controllers, and credit managers, they have a strong desire to focus their staff on customer service activities that unlock cash. For instance, providing reporting support to high-value customers that accelerate internal approvals and payments for those high-value customers. Another great example is resolving disputes faster. The typical dispute can take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to resolve. Cutting that by 50% or more can have a dramatic impact on DSO. What these managers conveyed to me is that they don't want their staff focused on doing mundane but important transactional communications. So transactional communications include things such as payment reminders, or dunning notices, or sending statements out. The reason they don't want the staff focused on that is that there's simply too many communications and not enough staff. Hence, the focus, as I mentioned on the previous slide, is really on engaging the late payers, the really late payers. So we wanted to take another quick poll here just to see, how many people have automated all of your transactional communications. Great, thank you for your input on that. So let's do an introduction to AR sequencing. AR sequencing is a solution that really frees up your staff time from that transactional communication, so they can focus on the customer service activities that free up the most cash. First, what is an AR sequence? An AR sequence is really, just as it says here, an ordered set of customer communications. So what are the communications, especially the transactional communications that need to go out? And then what are the staff tasks that need to be done to accomplish an accounts receivable goal? So there's a goal that's trying to be done, and there's a sequence of steps that allows that to be completed. AR sequencing itself is then the intelligent automation that knows how to automatically send out the communications and automatically assign staff tasks to complete that goal. So that's really kind of the focus of that, is where that automation fits in. AR sequencing is really one of the most powerful automations available to an AR team. It creates a significant increase in outbound communication capacity and saves a massive amount of time for the staff. So what are the AR goals? Well, of course, one of them is collecting payments, and that's one of the ones people talk about the most. But there are many others. For instance, onboarding a customer, keeping a customer within their credit limits, resolving a dispute, verifying account details to ensure properly delivery of the communications and invoices, educating customers with promotional material on how to contact or how to actually work with the accounting department, and also getting sign-off on changes in accounting process. You may want them to update your contact information or bank information. So these are all important goals that AR teams have. And currently, they solve most of that through manual task and using Outlook to get this done. So leveraging automation, and specifically AR sequencing, is a great way to do that. So let's take a look at an example. Let's say I have a goal to onboard customers. So the way AR sequencing works is when a customer is created in the ERP or accounting package, a trigger sets the sequencing into motion. And the engine, so the intelligent automation, one of the first things it does is send a welcome letter along with instructions of how to fill out a form to finalize the account setup. Things like collecting a tax exemption certificate or confirming their contact details. Now, if the form hasn't been completed within 10 days, a reminder is sent automatically, again with the instructions, so that they can go and complete that activity. After 20 days, a task could be created. So now a task is created and assigned to the appropriate staff member who's going to be in charge of that account to contact and resolve. Now with this AR sequencing, the staff only have to deal with the exceptions in the process. So that means over 95% of the onboarding is automatically done, and they can deal with just the individual exceptions. So here's some things to consider when using sequencing. First, one of the things to do is think about targeting your sequences. Tailor the steps and communications for different segments of your business. It's common that a minority of your customers will make up a majority of your revenue. In that case, you will likely want to have a high-touch sequence for these customers, but a more automated, hands-off approach for your small and medium business customers. Design for your audience. Make the process easy for them by providing really clear call to actions in all the communication and ensuring the proper timing of those communications to them. One key thing is to test and test again. Of course, evaluating the overall DSO before and after to see the benefits there and the financial benefits that come from it. But also measure the DSO by the various customer segments so that you can evaluate the performance of one particular sequence and what it's doing. And then, of course, report regularly. What you want to be able to do is establish KPIs beyond just DSO to measure all the leading indicators in the performance of your team. And so having those in place is an important part. And we'll talk about that more in our next in the series when we talk about leading indicators to DSO. So let's look at some of the most popular sequences. As we discussed, onboarding is one of those really popular sequences. We covered it, so I won't walk through the steps on this. But the reason it's critical is that it helps establish the right contact and process up front. This is how you're joining your groups together. And the other nice part is when you engage your customer digitally, that's how they tend to maximize the experience going forward. Once you contact them digitally, they tend to stay digital. And when they're working with you in that fashion, it saves you time and gets you money faster. So the other next popular one is obviously getting on-time payment. Here, the trigger is a new invoice in the system. Something that also can be built in is whether or not you want to offer early payment incentives. So this is a step where you could say, how do I get people to do that? Now this trigger could be sent to everybody, just based on a payment due after X days, or it can actually be tailored to only go to a certain segment of customers. So maybe that offer is limited to certain individuals. When the invoice is getting close, a reminder is sent out, and finally on the due date, another reminder is sent just to get those in place. Now what's interesting, in the consumer world, these reminders are super useful. And it's a really common part of any customer experience of in any of your utility bills, bank interactions, et cetera. These are all very common activities. However, in B2B, it's not as common. What AR sequencing does is it takes the consumer experience and makes it possible for B2B customers. Now, obviously, the past due, which we talked about, is an important set of sequences. And here you can see the most common setup that we do with customers, where we kind of configure exactly what are the trigger days that people want to do, and how are the reminders going out. But interestingly, this is also an example where I'll talk about testing and the importance of testing. One of the customers we worked with, we went through and sampled, and showing having 4 reminders as opposed to maybe just 3 reduced their call effort by 10%. Well, another customer indicated there was no change. And so they took out the 4th reminder so that the outreach would happen earlier so they can get their cash earlier. And that's a common example of being able to test and understand the performance of your sequences and make the optimal choices. Dispute resolution is a kind of the final one that I'll cover here. And the interesting part about this is the ability to do escalation within a sequence. As we talked about, disputes can get clogged up. So when I mentioned the 2 to 4 weeks delay, a lot of times that is happening because it gets buried in a stack of to-dos. And the dispute itself is going stale. The customer doesn't have a motivation to pay that because they're just sitting on it while it's in dispute. So it's really incumbent upon the vendor to move this along. And so in this case, what you see, the sequence has an escalation task. If it hasn't been resolved within a certain amount of time, it gets escalated to get additional resources on it and to get it resolved right away. So I hope you found these sequences interesting and useful. They are the most popular ones that we work with on our customer base. Next, I'll actually look into what are the business benefits and look at a couple of examples of those. The first one I want to share with you is actually Perlick. Perlick is in the refrigeration and bar dispensing industry. They've been around for more than 100 years. And with the explosion of microbrews and everything else, they're seeing a lot of great growth. In fact, they were growing so fast, the AR department was having a hard time keeping up. They had expanded into over 1,300 active accounts. And one of the things that they said early on is that every email that was coming in had to be manually assigned to a collector. And often the assignment was to the wrong person. And so they were spending a lot of days just answering emails instead of getting ready to do the aging and collecting activities. When they implemented Anytime Collect and started to do sequencing, one of the things they did was they established an SLA that every request from a customer would be responded to in less than 24 hours, and they were able to meet that right away. As a result of doing the sequencing, a couple of things happened. One, they were able to decrease their DSOs from 44 days down to 37 days in just a couple of months. They were also able to take their past due, or I should say, take their on-time payment from 88.3% up to 95.7%. So again, that was part of having that nice impact on there. And they saved more than 54 hours of staff time per month as a result of doing this. So it was really interesting to say, to hear the team there talk about just kind of the fact that they were able to put more of their time into actually collecting rather than doing the administrative tasks behind the scenes. Another sequencing business case is a company that we're working with right here. We were looking at reducing their increasing their working capital by $14.6 million. Just in interest recovery, they calculated that's $343,000 a year in interest recovery. That came through a reduction of DSO by 21 days. The days past due also reduced pretty dramatically. And their staff time was actually 266 hours per month of savings. So that means that the staff time, again, as we talked about, even with Perlick, can be focused on higher value activities than the transactional emails that they were doing. So in summary, we just wanted to go back and say, what is AR sequencing? And as we talked about, it is that ordered set of kind of predetermined playbooks that you can run over and over again, but to do it at scale with intelligent automation. And ultimately, what that means is that AR sequencing frees up both your cash flow and your staff time so that you can increase your own performance. And with that, I'll open it up to questions and answers.
Hey, Matt, we got a question. Is there a limit on how many sequences you can have?
Great question. So in terms of sequences, no, you can have as many sequences as you like. We do have a best practice guide that usually per customer segment, there's about 6 different sequences that are most important to implement. But we've seen customers do, for instance, very interesting sequences, such as happy anniversary. So if you've been a customer for on your first year anniversary, or any follow-on anniversary, they have an automated sequence just to say thank you for the business, and any kind of asking for any updates. So we've seen some really imaginative things out there, but usually it's 6 per customer segment, and then you can have as many customer segments as you like. There was a question also about whether or not we have cash application automation. We do, in our solution, we do have cash application. That is a core part of our overall service. Our service has 3 components to it. It has the AR sequencing, which we talked about today. It also has an online portal and a service desk for the team to work from. And within that, there is automation for cash application. There was a question of if we're located in the USA, and we are located in the USA, and we do business globally. In the US, we have multiple offices. By the way, we also have offices internationally. Those offices are listed on our website. We do have lots of customers in Canada. We also have reseller partners in Canada. So if you do have a reseller that you're already working with, we work with them as well. And we do have over 50 customers in Canada. If there aren't any other questions, I wanted to thank everybody. We really hope it was valuable. And we look forward to having you join us in the follow-on. Have a great day.